How can you actually scale the Bitcoin network for it to be able to be used by 8 billion people? These questions and the opportunities are going to be solved in today's video. Before we get started into the various opportunities on how to actually scale Bitcoin, we have to establish some ground rules. Bitcoin runs obviously on the Bitcoin blockchain. You have 10 minutes, a new block every time, and that blockchain gets maintained by the miners who are actually solving a mathematical puzzle. The miner who does it the quickest with the right solution gets the block subsidiary as a reward, and this way Bitcoin is being distributed. The miners also essentially keep safe that everyone plays according to the network rules. However, with a 10-minute block time, meaning every 10 minutes a new block comes in, that doesn't make Bitcoin very scalable on the native blockchain. You may be able to buy, something in big amounts. Think of something like you want to transfer 50,000 euros worth of Bitcoin from point A to point B. You can do that, especially in an environment like we have these days, where the fees are low. However, if you want to pay for a coffee, services, or everyday goods, that's probably not the best idea to go with, because who wants to wait 10 minutes for the transaction to confirm? By that time, the coffee is just cold. So this is where scaling solutions come in. Scaling solutions use Bitcoin's blockchain and on-chain footprint as the base layer and build upon that. However, that building can be done either in a vertical or in a horizontal way. One way to actually scale this upwards into a layer 2 scaling solutions is the Lightning Network. Lightning, very simply explained, is a channel network where you have an outgoing transaction from Bitcoin, where you send funds into a Lightning channel. You then enable other participants in the network to join that channel or to connect with you. And based on what people add as liquidity to that system, you can exchange in real time sats from point A to point B. That is obviously great if you run everything yourself, because it's a true self-custodial matter, which you should anyway if you run Bitcoin. However, it's not really a scalable solution for 8 billion people on planet Earth, because after all, you would have to have some technical knowledge on how to get this done. Rather, this is where Lightning service providers come in who say, hey, we do the entire infrastructure. We set up the channels, we set up everything. Sometimes we even already provide liquidity for these channels to use, and you can then join with your own self-custody setup and basically add your funds and exchange and use the infrastructure this way. That's a very popular model you find these days with various Lightning apps who enable you to pay for things such as a coffee or a service or a good. However, if you do this, you sacrifice a little bit of decentralization, because after all, you may be joining with your own funds and your own Lightning wallet, but the entire infrastructure surrounding it is being used by a third party. This is where other options who go more the horizontal way, such as Liquid, come into play. The Liquid network is a packing net mechanism where you have the Bitcoin blockchain, not on this layer, but more on that layer, and you actually create what's being called a sidechain, meaning everything you do in that network is pegged to Bitcoin. So if you deposit 1 Bitcoin from the Bitcoin network into Liquid, that is actually a one-on-one peg. This enables you to use Liquid's quick block times, who are much faster than Bitcoin's, and the possibility to further build other currencies on it, such as maybe a backed euro or something like along these lines. That is the backing of Bitcoin. However, it has its own rules and therefore also its own use case. This is very popular as more of an insurance model. Think about if you own a lot of Bitcoin and you need to transfer them and you may have high fees, you can use Liquid this way, or if you want to have your own currency on this. Additionally, on top of that all, are also other solutions such as eCash, who also enable you to create real-time money transfers in maybe fiat, but use the Bitcoin network as the infrastructure. All of that sounds great, but as I've mentioned, you mostly need to trust a third party. So this is where we get into the key aspect of the scaling solutions and a solution that is currently being solved. You have to have a network connection into these scaling solutions. The ideal way, as I mentioned previously, is because not everyone is tech savvy, not everyone has maybe also the time to set up a node, manage liquidity in Lightning, or set up a Liquid node. They will then use third parties who enable people the infrastructure and rather than bring their own funds. Very importantly, there are also a lot of scaling solutions that are custodial, meaning you have to trust that partner completely and you also deposit the funds there. You're not in control of these Bitcoin because you don't have access to the 12 or 24 words and your own key. That is one of the main problems that's being solved now, but luckily through that model I explained previously, the actual best way of getting it done currently, unless there's a big tech change and someone figures out this problem, is that you actually bring your own funds in a self-custodial manner and you just use the infrastructure. Is it as perfect as being on-chain natively where you are in total control of everything? Definitely not. However, whenever you scale, you actually need to solve these problems where you have complete decentralization and pure flexibility, and you then have to sacrifice something in the middle to get the job done. What do you think at this point? Are shared scaling solutions a way to go, meaning you bring in your own funds and you just use the infrastructure? Or will it head to a future where more people will just use third parties and therefore entrust them? Let me know in the comment below. And if you find other scaling solutions interesting as well, also leave a comment below so people can find out more about them. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.